It's warm. Yeah, I got it.
Yesterday, we were learning the Mishnah that lists off the 10 shades of Yuchsin that came up to Eretz Yisrael with Ezra Sofer. And the Gemara wants to know a proof from the Psukim about every single group. So we already went through Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, and Chalalim. And now we're up to Geri v'Charuri. Before I begin, I just want to say two things. First of all, today is the yahrzeit of Meir Shapiro, the founder of Daf Yomi. He's the Shomer Shel Avin Aliyah, and the schus of the learning that he gives all of Klal Yisrael every day should be schus for all of Klal Yisrael to help us in these very difficult times. And everybody in Eretz Yisrael, every soldier, everyone who's risking their life for Klal Yisrael should be protected from their Rebbeinu Shalom, that there shouldn't be an injury, there shouldn't be any difficulty. The Rebbeinu Shalom should uproot all our signim without any tsar for us at all. It's also the yahrzeit of a Yid who did so much for Klal Yisrael, and because he did so much for Klal Yisrael, he wasn't able to learn. So he asked that on his yahrzeit, which is also Zayin Cheshvan, people should learn for him. His name was Rabbi Yosef ben Moshe Alevi. I'm sure we all remember growing up the ads that we would see. Today for Nit and Chapnas Yah. He was the person, Rabbi Yosef Rosenberg. He was the person who publicized and brought awareness to the Isser of Shatnez, and all of our Shatnez laboratories are from him. He created them. So his neshama should have an aliyah, and our learning today should also be a schus for his neshama. How do we know that they were Gerim and they were Avodim Shuchrarim that went up with Ezra to Eretz Yisrael? Amar Abchista, the Amar Kra, it says in the Pasuk. Oh, as an aside, Zayin Cheshvan is also the day during the second base of Mikdash. A lot of people still lived in Bavel. During the second base of Mikdash, after they were Oila Regel, the people from Bavel who were Oila Regel, and I just didn't have a chance to turn it around. All of the people that were Oila Regel and didn't get back to their homes till later, because it takes much longer to get to Bavel than it does to get to anywhere in Eretz Yisrael. They arrived on the other side. They crossed the Euphrates. So the Euphrates is Nahar Pras. They crossed that river and got to their communities on Zayin Cheshvan. And it's on Zayin Cheshvan that people in Eretz Yisrael start to say V'sein Talu Matar. They refrained from asking for rain until the travelers who came to the Regel got back home. So that's another significant thing. And I'm pointing it out because we were just learning now that when Ezra came up there to Yisrael, most of the people stayed back in Bavel. But nevertheless, when he built the base of Mikdash, they must have come to be Oila Regel. And that's why we wait for them to get home before we say V'sein Talu Matar. I believe we say V'sein Talu Matar later. In December we start. Yeah. But in Eretz Yisrael, they start today. Mamzeri, Minolon. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. Minolon, Bager Chari, Amar Abchista, Amar Krav, V'cholam Nivdal, Mitumas Goyei Haaretz Eleim. You know who else came with them? Those who separated themselves from the Tumah of the Goyim, which would be the Gerim. Okay? The Gerim and the Avodim Mishuchorim. That class is included in this puzzle. Mamzeri, Minolon, where do you see that Mamzerim were included in the group that came out from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael? Tichsiv, it says. Now, this is a fascinating story in Nehemiah. Nehemiah found out about the devastation in Yerushalayim and how the walls of the city were broken. It was a horrible situation. So he asked the king, who he was the Saramashkim for, as we learned yesterday, to allow him to go up to Yerushalayim for a couple of days, to give him wood, to give him protection, so that he could at least assess the situation, see how they can rebuild the walls of Yerushalayim. But there were haters there. There were troublemakers there. And Sanballat HaCharuni and Tuvia HaEvet HaAmoni, these two characters were doing everything to get in the way of Nehemiah. They were bad actors.
I'm sorry, I didn't know it's not very hot.
It's perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
You're not going to burn yourself.
No. They were bad actors, but they were also very well connected into the Jewish community. These two people were goyim. Sanballat Hacharuni and Tuvia Eved Hamoni. He was an Eved Hamoni. Pashas, they even had to kill him because he was from Ammon. But it says, Kirabim Yehuda Balei Shvuoloi. These people had good connections because Kichasan who was Shchonya ben Arach, who was a Yid. So you have these Goyim Eved, who was an Edom by a Yid. V'yahaychanon Benoi, and the son of Tuvia Eved, Lokach Esbas Misholem ben Brachia, who is also a Jewish person. So we have an Eved or a Goy who married a Jewish girl. So since these people were amongst those who went up to Eretz Yisrael, and these are an Eved Habal Bas Yisrael, their children must be Mamzerim. So therefore, if they were from the group of people that went up from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, we have proof that Mamzerim went up from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. So that's very good if you hold Eved Habal Bas Yisrael Avlad Mamzer, but not everybody holds like that. Where are you going to find the proof that a mamzer came up there to Israel? Visu, it doesn't say anywhere they had children. Who said they had children? So how do you know that they were? How do you know that they were mamzerim coming up? Visu, mimai dahacha havalu usliku. How do you know these people were in Bavel and they went up there to Israel? In other words, Sanballat and Tuvia, they might have been from Bavel, but Shchani ben Arach, the Shver, and Mishal ben Brachia, maybe they never left Eretz Yisrael. Maybe they never went into Golos. They remained there. There was a small amount of people who remained there. So maybe the wedding took place in Eretz Yisrael, and they had children in Eretz Yisrael. So even if they had mamzerim, who said those mamzerim came up with Ezra from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael? Dilma Hasim Havu. Maybe they always remained in Eretz Yisrael and they never came up because they were there already. So you don't have a raya that amongst the delegation that went up with Nehemiah, with Ezra and Nehemiah, that there were mamzerim. We have to resort to a different pasuk. It says ve'ela ha'olim. These are the people who came up, and it gives a list of cities in Bavel, a partial list of cities in Bavel from where these people came from. And the focus is going to be, why did the pasuk Dafka decide to list off these cities? There were many more cities where people came from in Bavel when they departed Eretz Yisrael. So we dash in the names of these cities. So one city was Tel Melech, a hill of salt. Tel Charsha, it could either mean a plowed hill or maybe it means a deaf hill. We'll see how the Gemara dashes it. And Kruv, Edoin, Ve'emar. These are names. We're going to dash in them as Kruv Adoin. But the word actually says, Kruv Edoin, I think. Edoin Ve'emer. Kruv Edoin Ve'emer. And then it says, Lo yachlu lahagid beis avoisa. They were not able to tell us about their yichus, vizaram, and their children, im Yisraelheim, if they're from Yisrael. That's what the pasuk said. So we darshan these psukim as follows: Tel Melach. What is this village that we're calling Tel Melach? Elu b'nei Adam shadaimim maseim l'maisis Sodom. These are people who their behavior is like those people who lived in Sodom. What happened to Sodom? Shenebchel Tel Melach. Sodom was turned over. It was made into one big pile of salt. And Rashi says Sodom was a place where they were into justice, perverted justice. So they had a rule. The halacha is, if someone punches a pregnant woman in the stomach, and because of that she loses her vlados, he has to pay. In our law, in Jewish laws, you pay the father the money of vlados. The law in Sodom was, well, if you made her miscarry, well, then you have to impregnate her. You have to take her. You have to take your friend's wife. You have to impregnate her. And when she's pregnant to the same degree as she was when you killed the babies, then you give her back to her husband. So they endorsed, they mandated znus. So of course they mandated mamzer. So Tel Melech means they came from the city, but we're dashing. These are mamzer. Tel Charsha, zeh shekayra abba v'imim shaskasai. So that's called a shtuki. We don't know who his father is. Fighter a Safik mamzer. V'lo yachlu lahagid beis avoisa v'zayram im Yisraelheim Zewa Sufi, that's referring to the Sufi Shenesov and the Shuk, and we don't even know whose mother is either. And Keruv Edoin Ve'imar, we darshan that. Omar Abavo, Omar Odoin, the Odoin said, so referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ani Amarti, you Yisrael Lefonai, Chashuvim Kukruv. I said that these Klal Yisrael should be chashuv to me, like the Kruvim, who are beloved. Ve'hem Samu Atzmam Kinomer. They made themselves like a leopard. What is a leopard? Zokt Rashi, a leopard is someone who has no problem sleeping around. Let's see what Rashi is. He has no problem having relations with his friend Zug. So those are anoyafim. The question is, where in the pasuk do you see the word nomer? So the Marsha says that when we dash the pasuk karuv edoin v'imer, we connect the nun from Adon to the word V'imer, so it should be Ne'emer. It should be like a Ne'emer. So that's where the Nomer comes from.
That's why maybe ask Kanomer, ask whom about the issues that.
Very nice, very, very nice thought. Ikadamri, there are those who say, Amar Abavo, Amar Adon HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Afal Pisha Samu Atmu Kanomer. Even though they don't behave properly, Hein Chashuvim Lefanai Kukruv. I will always love Klal Yisrael, no matter what situation they're in, no matter what their behavior is. Someone who marries a woman who is not appropriate for him, and before Hashem tells us that means she's posel and yuchsin. She's posel and yuchsin, so he's ruining his yichus. She's a mamzer, she's a mamzeres, or she has some other psul. It's as if you prepare the entire world for planting productive, beautiful produce, because you plowed, which is a lot of hard work, the whole world. And then what did you plant there instead of seeds? Vizari melach. And you planted salt there. And that salt not only doesn't grow, it destroys the soil, and now you won't even be able to plant afterwards. Shenemar ve'elo ha'olim mitel melach tel charasha. So once again, we're using that same pasuk that's talking about Sula Yuchsin, that says a tel charasha, a hill that was plowed, is actually going to be like a hill that was salted. Amar Rabba Baravada Amarath. If someone marries a woman for her money and she's not roy for him, it doesn't mean if he marries a woman for her money and she is roy for him. But if she's not roy for him, she's psula yuchsin, so he's compromising the yichus of his children for money. He's going to end up having children that are not muhugan, that are not the way he wants them to be. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, Bashem bagadu, they betrayed Rebbeinu Shloim, kivanim zarim yaldu, because they gave birth to banim zarim, children who don't act properly. Ata yoichlem chodesh eschalkeim, and now a month will eat up their chelak. So the Gemara dashes the pasuk. How do we know they won't have good children? Because it says, Vashem bagadu kivanim zarim yaldu. See, they will not have good children. The Shema Timer, okay, no, but mom and Pelate, he's struggling terribly for pranos. He doesn't have any money. So he compromised. He compromised on his wife. He compromised on his children, but at least he won't be choked to death anymore. Talmud Leimer, the pasuk says it's not even going to help your finances. Because in a month, their whole cash benefit, their financial benefit, will be eaten up and dissipated. The Shema Taimar, maybe Dafke his chelek, which are the nichse toim barzel, that he gets to keep, he just pays her if he divorces her. But maybe the nichse malug, which always remains belonging to her, and he's just oichel payers, maybe that will be protected. All of their assets, even those that are predominantly hers, are going to dwindle. The Shema Temel is mamru. Maybe you'll say, okay, in 20 years, in 30 years, there'll be a crash, he'll lose his money. But Lamata, temporarily, the crisis that he had financially will be averted. Even a month. My mashma, where do you see that? It means quickly. The month will start, the month will end, and the money will be gone. The Marsha says that it's not mistaber to learn this way, which is how Rashi explains it, because it should say Chodesh Yetze Umamaynin Oven. So he says Chodesh Nissan Chodesh Yetze Umamaynin Oven means it's little by little. Every month there'll be a loss of money, and in very short order he'll lose it all, but it won't be 1 month. It'll be longer than that. Amar Rabba Barab Ada Amrila Amrab Sala Amar Hamnuna. Kalanoisa Isa Sheina again this light. Elio Kaisai. Elio ties him up. And Rashi says they would tie his hands around the post so that he couldn't move, so that they were able to give him Malchus. And the Marsha says, why was it Elio? It was Elio because he can see Baruch HaKodesh, who is kosher and who's not. HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be the one to give him the Malchus. Who is this Elio? Oh, we'll see that in a minute. I'm sorry. We'll see that in a minute. Vitana, we learned Al Kulam, and Rashi touches Kaihanim, Leviim, V'Yisraelim. No matter who it was who compromised their yichus to marry an Isha, Sheina Genesloi, Elio Kaisev. Elio writes the following statement: HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chaysim. And what does he write? Oy loy, woe is to this person. Lepoisel Azaroi, he puzzles his own children. Ulepoigim es mishpachtoi, he is poigim his entire family, because sometimes people won't even know who in the family married improperly, and they'll stay away from the entire family. Let me just finish Rashi. Elio Kosef, my dekamer v'azol oy loy lepoisel Zaroi ulepoigim es mishpachtoi. That's what Elio writes. They're going Shenosa Isha Shein Agenesloi. Zok Rashi, I don't know who this is from. Hi Elio, Lav Elio Dichsiv B'Mikrahu. It's not our Elio Hanov that comes to all the prison and comes to our Seder. Dimkein Mekamed Ahava Man Kovse. What happened before Elio Novi? What happened before the times of Elio Novi? Who did this then? You think in the Midbar people didn't marry for money? You think before Pinchas times they didn't marry for money? Shem Malachu to Sofer Lamaila. Elio is the name of a Malach who happens to be the secretary treasurer.
Pinchas wasn't a Lewi body. He had a Lewi machine.
Yeah, I hear. So Zok to Gemara.
But the Gemara says Mechos Dargin said Ish even step down a level.
But not a level of Yichser. No, Yichser,
yeah.
Yeah, but the Mevarshim, I'll explain. Psulaloi, Rashi's Psulaloi, right? Someone who's also to marry. Zok to Gemara weiter. Elio Koifsoi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes. And now the Zok to Gemara. V'chala Poisel, Posel. Someone who calls somebody else Posel. If you accuse somebody else, he was a mamzer, Posel, you're the mamzer. No, I'm sorry. This doesn't mean that. If I say you're a mamzer, you might be a halal. You might be a care. You might have some other person. The Einai Medaber.
Call somebody a mamzer. You have to go to their graves and orient for it.
To ask Mechila, because you're obviously saying lashon. Yeah, here.
Is only if it means
the Einai Medaber b'shvacha lo'olam. Rashi says a person who's puzzled. One of the symptoms of a person who's puzzled is someone who always speaks ill of others. If someone's always speaking ill of others, it's a sign that there's a psul and a zichus. We have the famous saying, if you call somebody a mamzer, you're a mamzer. People are going to accuse others of, it's called projection. It's what the Democrats do all the time. They accuse the Republicans of whatever they're guilty of. So generally, when you're accusing somebody of something, what you're doing really is you're projecting your own chesroinus on them. So therefore, and we're going to see how halacha l'maisa, the Gemara is going to tell us stories halacha l'maisa, where someone accuses somebody else of being a mamzer, you have to be voting his yichus, because probably he's a mamzer. Zok the Gemara. Who gaver? Here's a story that shows this halacha l'maisa. Who gavered him in the hardah? There was a gentleman, and I'm using gentleman very liberally because he wasn't such a gentleman. From Nardo, the all lebei mitbachai b'pubadisa. He came to a butcher in Pubadisa, and he was waiting in line, and he didn't have patience to wait in line. So he says, "I'm from Berapad. I'm a little heavily bisser. Give me my meat now. I want service now." Relay. They told him, "Sure, sir. Sure, we'll be happy to serve you." Nitar adishokol shamed Rabbi Yehuda by Yecheskel. We're in the middle of serving the shamus of the great Gadol Ador Rabbi Yehuda by Yecheskel. And as soon as we're done serving this customer, we will be happy to serve you. Amar, this person said, Man Yehuda bar Shavitzkel. So he made fun of the name. He called Yecheskel Shavitzkel, which means like a fresser, means a barbecue guy. Who's this Yehuda, the fresser that likes to fresh barbecue meat? The Kodam Li, that's in front of me. The Shakal Min Kamoi, that's taking before me. I'm first. So what happened was, Oslu Amr Leila Rabbi Yehuda. They told Rabbi Yehuda about this person who spoke terribly disrespectful towards Rabbi Yehuda. Shamte, so Rabbi Yehuda put him into Cher. Amru, they also reported to Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if you notice, Rabbi Yehuda put him into Cher immediately when he heard that he spoke disrespectful. Only after he put him into Cher did they also report to him, Ragul Dekari Inshiavti. This person is very liberally calling people, you are an Eved, you're an Eved. So right away, Rabbi Yehuda called out about him, Achrish Alei, the Abdahu. So now Rabbi Yehuda called out, their name, she's an Eved, using the Psak of Shmuel. So Azalahu, so this tzaddik of a guy decided that he's taking Rabbi Yehuda to Din Torah. Azmei Ledina, to who? L'kamei Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Yehuda was even greater than Rabbi Nachman, but Rabbi Nachman was the son-in-law of the Dvei Nesiah, and he was a big posek. Rabbi Nachman was a nine, yeah. So I said, Piska the Hasmona. Rabbi Yehuda received the Hasmona letter to Bez, and Rabbi Yehuda wasn't sure if he should go. Also, Rabbi Yehuda l'kamei Rav Huna. Rabbi Yehuda went to consult with Rav Huna. Amalei, and he asked, Ezel or lo Ezel, should I go or not? Amalei, Rav Huna said, really, Mezel lo mibayach l'mezel. Really, you shouldn't have to go. Mishum de Gava Rabbah. You're a Gava Rabbah, and once again, we know the definition of a Gava Rabbah. The Rav told us from the Ostrafser is someone who saves people from pain, who protects his people. Ella, Mishum Yakir de Vei Nesiah, out of respect for the Vei Nesiah, Kumzil. Go. Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda went begrudgingly, and he was not happy at all that he had to go. So he was going to give Rabbi Nachman as much trouble as he can. Zil also, he came, he saw Rabbi Nachman, the Ka'avid Micah. Rabbi Nachman was doing a construction project. He just got back from Home Depot with some 2x4s, and he was building a gate. So right away, Rabbi Yehuda attacked Rabbi Nachman. Amar lei, loy savar lo mar, lahadu amar Rav Huna bar Idi amar Shmuel. Don't you hold of what Rav Huna bar Idi said in the name of Shmuel? That kivan shenismana adam parnis al tzibur. Once you become a leader, you're a dying. Also, b'asis malacha b'fnei shloisha. You're not allowed to be doing construction projects. Imagine you go by Rav Chia's house, you go by Berlo's house, and he's gardening or he's building a fence. It's not b'kavadik to the tzibur or the rav to be doing such things. I know Baruch Heinemann once told me that his father, when they lived in Yeshiva Lane in Baltimore, used to fix his own car. And one day his mother told his father, you're a charov, it doesn't pass it. You should be fixing your own car in public. So he told him, you're 100% right. And what he did was, he took off the glass sliding doors of the apartment, and he drove his Datsun right into the living room. And then he closed the door and closed the shades, and he continued working on his car in his living room. Amalei, Porta to Gundisa, to the COVID. I'm not doing a construction project. I'm putting up a little mica, which is the mitzvah of a sisa mica legeyecha, and that a Rav's allowed to do. A mitzvah a Rav's allowed to do. Stomach construction project is not bakavadik, but the mitzvah of mica I'm allowed to do. Omer lei, but how did what was shepherding it with Nachman? Everything Nachman said he knocked. So what word did he use to say the word fence? Gundrisa. You ever heard of that word before? So Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda told him, Nachman, what's the matter with you? Can't you speak like a mensch? Me selling Micah, the Chsiv by Raisa. Why did you say I'm building a Micah? That's what it is. You have to use some fancy word. Oy mechitza, the Marabbanan, they use the word mechitza, which is how it's referred to in Chazal. There are those who learn the Marsha says, what he meant to say is, Memanashich, do you consider me a Talmud Chacham? And therefore you should use the Lashon HaTorah, or are you going to use the more common Lashon the Rabban use? Could you consider me a Balabos? What do you consider me? But once again, what are you, some elitist? Do you have to use some fancy vocabulary? Speak like a man. Amar lei, so Rab Nachman stayed calm, and he told Rabbi Yehuda, Yosef Mar Akapita. Maybe you want to sit on my carpet. That's also a fancy word for a bench. Amar lei. So once again, Rabbi Yehuda says, what are you speaking with some highfalutin Babylonian tongue. Umisani Safsel, the Amar Rabbanon, Itztava, the Amar Inchi. Why don't you use the normal terms for these things as people according to show off your vocabulary? So again, Rav Nachman ignored him. Amar Lei, Leichel Mak Saranga. Would you like some Saranga? Which was Esrik. Amar Lei, Haki Amar Shmuel. Kala Amar Saranga. If someone uses a Saranga, that's already not a different language. So he didn't say the same comment, but it's making it sound fancier. Tilsta B'Ramasarucha. Vice the Chois, he has a little bit of gaiva, a third of gaiva in him. Oy esrig ki the kayur abonin, either call it an esrig, or yeseroy ga the Amar Yinchi. I remember in the Alt English Eden wouldn't say I'm a painter. They would say I'm a painter. They would stick in that nun. I guess they thought it made it sound more choshev. So and the seroy ga, that nun letter makes things sound fancier, I guess. Okay. Amalei, Amalei. So then Rav Nachman told Rabbi Yehuda again, Lishtimar anavga. Maybe you would like some anavga, which was a drink that they used to drink in the morning. It was their morning coffee, and it was the shir of a revius, and it was made out of things that are good to drink in the morning. It was their blended vegetable juice, their blended carrot juice, or whatever it was. So Zok to Gemara, Amarle, mi sani ispargus, the Kari Rabbanon. Why don't you refer to it as ispargus, which is how the Rabbanon referred to this drink? I anpik Damayinchi. Amarle, he said, you know what? Calm down, Rabbi Yehuda. Tasty doinik tashkinin. I'm going to call my daughter out, my daughter doinik, and I'm going to tell her to come serve us to drink. Amarle, he answered back, Hachi Amar Shmuel. Shmuel Paskin ein nishtamshim beisha. You're not allowed to have a woman service you, and then because it's going to lead to you're teaching her to hang out amongst the men. That's not a problem. So I'm not going to said, calm down. Kitanahi, she's just a little girl. Beferish Amar Shmuel ein mishtamshim beisa klal ben gedel benkta. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda was literally hammering away at Rav Nachman. Nishter leimar shalma leyalta. So then Rav Nachman told Rabbi Yehuda, maybe you would like to send regards to my wife. Amalei. So Rabbi Yehuda said, what? If I even address your wife, she's going to respond. That coil will be an erva. Rabbi Nachman said, no, have somebody else send regards for you. Amalei, Shmuel. This is what Shmuel said. Ain't shaylin b'shalom isha. You're not ala b'shal, no matter what. So I'm not going to baila. I'll tell my wife you send her regards. Amar lei hachi amar Shmuel ein shaylin b'shalom isha klal. So Reb Nachman's wife hears what's going on, and she hears that Rabbi Yehuda is a shtickle washing the floors and attacking everything her husband says. So Shalchala Dvisu, his wife, who's a daughter of the Yosy, tells her husband, Reb Nachman, do me a favor, Reb Nachman, Sharele Tagre, get rid of him quickly. Whatever he's here for, I don't know what he came for, but whatever he came for, take care of him and get him out of here. Because by the time he's done with you, he's going to make you look like a grab amaretz, because he's highlighting everything you're doing wrong. Get rid of him. He's a troublemaker. So then, after all this, Rav Nachman asked Rav Yehuda, why did you come? Because now that his wife said you got to get rid of him, he wanted to know, well, why are you here? So he didn't even realize that why Rav Yehuda was all upset that he called him to the Torah. Amalei, Haska, Dazmanusa, Shadamar, Abasroi. You served me, you sent me a summons. That's why I'm here. Amalei, how could that possibly be? Rav Nachman told you that. Hashda Shusa Damar Loigamirno. I don't even know. Shusa Damar actually says Sichasai Shal Adoini Eini Mavin. I don't even speak appropriately according to you, Rabbi Yehuda. I surely wouldn't have sent you a hasmana. I don't come up to your toenail, so to speak. So he pulled out his money. He pulled it out of his pocket, and he showed Rav Huna. This is me. I'm the guy. Okay, no. Really, I shouldn't even done with you. You're a gadol. But since you came already here, let me hear your taina. If I just dismiss the case because I know you're probably right, people are going to say, look at the nepotism that goes on, the corruption that goes on. these Rabbanim protect each other. So let us at least talk about this case a little bit, so it should have a semblance of justice. Amalei, my timer, Shamte Ma'alahu Gav. Why Taka did you put this fellow into Cherem? So Rabbi Yehuda answered, Siyar Shlichad Rabbana. He was Metzayar Shliach Rabbanim. In other words, he was Mevaza, my Shliach, and myself. So, so why didn't you just give him Malchus? Why did you put him to Cherem? The Rav Mangid Alman the Metzayar Shlichad Rabbanim. Rav would give Malchus for such an offense. Zok Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda said, the other Bnei Avdilai. I did better. And they bring a raya from here. Raya says, Chamura mimena asisi lo lekansa. I gave him a more stringent punishment. Is a Rav allowed to give a more stringent punishment than that prescribed? So Rashi says, and they're medayik from Rashi, that you see from here that if a Rav sees that someone needs a bigger punishment because he's blocking and ignoring and being mavaza, coming to Chachamim, he's allowed to actually call for a more severe sentence. David Minei Avdillah. My time achris mar alei the Abdahu. Now he could have answered, I put him into Cherem because he calls people an Evan. But he didn't say that because realistically we know he put this fellow into Cherem before they even told him that he called people an Evan. So then they asked, why did you announce that this person is an Evan? Amar lei, because the Ruggle, the Kari Inchiab, because he calls everybody else an Evan. But Tani, and we learned, Kalapoisel Posel. And Ve'enim Medaber B'Shvach Aloylam, Varmar Shmuel B'Mumay Poisel. So Shmuel Paskins, that someone goes around calling people an Evet, he's an Evet. So I had every right to announce that he's an Evet. Maybe Shmuel said you have to be choishish. If someone calls everybody an Evet, you have to be choishish, you have to investigate. But Lachruze Lemi Omar, who said that you could take it to the bank and you could paskin 100% that this fellow is an Evet just because he calls everybody else an Evet? So as this conversation is happening, at the Hachi V'Hachi, this Baldin came. The Baldin spoke straight to Rabbi Yehuda, and he said, "L'didi kars li'avda, you called me an Eved. You know who I am? You know what yichus I have? Da'asina mi beis chashmonoi malka. I'm a descendant of the beis chashmonoi kahanim yuchasim." Amalei, Rabbi Yehuda answered him, Hachi Amar Shmuel, you are making a big mistake, buddy, because Shmuel said, "Called Amar mi the beis chashmonoi kasina avdahu." Anybody who says, I'm from the beis chashmonoi, we know that's an Evet. How do you get that? So Rashi tells us, called Amar beis chashmonoi ana evdu, shekol zayroi pogrom hudus. Hudus wiped out all of the descendants of beis chashmonoi. So there's not one in existence except the Evet Haya. Hudus was an Evet, umalach tachtayim, and he took over their malchus. But he tried to get himself legitimacy. He wanted to have the legitimacy of the kahuna. The Karabanov al Shem Beis Chashmonoi. So he named his children Yochanan and Matasyo. He named his children like the names of the Beis Chashmonoi to make it look like, yeah, he's an Enikol. Umistama Lav B'Noishu Shol Nosif. These children probably did not marry Jewish girls. And nobody would marry off their children to Avodim, Hordis' children. So therefore, they must have all been Avodim. And there was a story where I think there was one Enikol left of Beis Chashmonoi, a woman, and the Hordis wanted to force her to marry him. And she went and she climbed up to the top of a building. And she said, I'm the last living member of the family, and I'm about to kill myself. And anybody who's going to claim afterwards that I'm a Beis Chashmonoi is an Evet. And then she killed herself. So it was known that it was just Hordis trying to steal the identity of Beis Chashmonoi. I'm sorry?
Identity theft is them.
No, you tried the identity of that, exactly. So, don't you hold of this halacha? This Reb Nachman piped in and asked, Kol Talmud Chacham, any Talmud Chacham, Shemeir halacha uba, and he paskins a halacha, and it becomes relevant to him himself. Im koydemaisa amra, if he had already announced the psak before it was relevant to him, even though it benefits him, Shaimin loy. because he made this psak before it was relevant to him. Vimlav, if he only encountered the shaila when it was relevant to him, and that's when he passed in his own favor, ain't shaymala. You don't accept it. So you brought this psak up right now after you already need it to justify you announcing that this fellow was an Evid. Amalei, no, this is not me. Rav Masna the Koikavasi. Rav Masna already before me passes like this. So this is a beautiful story. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of his customers. Rav Masna loisak loichazil in Arda leisar shni. Rav Masna had not been in Harda, which is where this took place, for 13 years. And Hahu Yom Punk that day, also he came because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to be madman for Rabbi Yehuda to be able to verify. Amr Lei, and this is what he said. This is how Talmid Chacham remembered every little nuance of everything that they learned. And he asked Rav Masna the following things. The Chir Mar, do you remember Rav Masna? My Omar Shmuel, what did Shmuel say when Shmuel Kikoichada Kara Aguda, one of his feet were on the riverbank, V'chad Kara Maver, and the other foot was either on a boat or on a bridge. So clearly he was in the middle of walking onto the bridge or walking onto the boat, and of course he's schmoozing and learning with his Talmud Rav Masna while he's walking onto this bridge, and right as he's walking onto this bridge, he must have said halacha. Do you remember what halacha Shmuel said exactly in that precise position? Amalei, Hachi Amar Shmuel, and this must have been more than 13 years ago. Hachi Amar Shmuel called the Amar, with the base Chashmonai, Malka, Kasina, anyone who says that I'm from the royal kingdom of Beis Chashmonai, Abdahu. You know why? The only one who remained alive from Beis Chashmonai after Hordis killed everybody was this young girl, the Solkala Igra. She ran up to the top of the building for Rami Kala, and she announced, and she said, called the Amar Beis Chashmonai ana Abdahu. And then Rechman Litlan Nafla Me Igra Umiso. And then Achar Zalei the Abdahu. So they called out about this fellow that he is an Eved. Because if you say Beis Chashmonai, we know for sure that he's an Eved. Hahu Yoima, that day, it came out that a lot of people who were related to him turned out, like all of his daughters that got married, men married them and they were told that they're ksherim, they're Beis Kahuna, and they lied. So Hahu Yoima Ikran Kama Ksubasa Benardo. Anyone who married into this guy's family, tore up the ksuba meaning their marriages were nullified. They were null and void because they were all marriages based on a false pretext. Rashi says, so this guy with his big mouth, because he was rude in a butcher store, he ended up having a whole bunch of daughters returned for a full refund. It didn't turn out that well. It's always better to keep your mouth shut. Kikandofik, as Rabbi Yehuda was leaving over the place in line in the butcher store. Kikandofik, Novki Abasrei Lemirgame. You know how many people were angry at him? Everyone came after him. There was a whole crowd coming after him. They wanted to stone him. You mamish messed up our lives. Amalu, he said, don't mess with me. Or be a tough guy. He turns around and says, what? You're messing with me. Shasiku. Keep your mouth shut and go home quietly. If not, I'll make it even worse. Maglina alaichu, I will reveal upon you, Had Amar Shmuel, that Shmuel said, Parti Zaryasa Ika ben Harda. There's two families in Harda. Chad Mikri Devei Yoina, one is called the family of Yoina, Chad Mikri Devei Ervusi. V'simonech, and your simon about which family is kosher and which family is tamei, the bird Oyrev, which is a bird that's tamei. Oh, that's right. Yeah. And tar. So people said, that's all I need now is that they should dox me over here too and reveal that I'm apostle Yichus. Everyone quietly put their rock down. Everything's fine, sir. You can go. They all put their rocks down, but they put it down in the river. And there were so many rocks, just to show how many people wanted to throw rocks at him, that become Atma bin Nahar Malka. They blocked, whenever we put their rocks down, they put them into the river, it blocked the river. That's how many rocks there were, that's how many people wanted to stone him. The problem is, what's going on over here? Rabbi Yehuda is telling them, if you don't back off, I'm going to tell everybody that the Bnei Yoina is kosher and the Bnei Erev apostle. He just revealed it. How you talking? So the Mefarshim explain one of two mahal. Either he didn't say who they were, the Gemara is saying. So he said, Hadam Shmuel Tazaz Ikvada, period. And the Gemara is saying what it meant was Chadam Mikid Veyon and the Chadam Mikid Veyon. The Gemara is filling us in. But of course, Rabbi didn't actually say it. That's one shot. The other shot is that wasn't the actual name of the family, or they were known, so he wasn't revealing who they were.
Somebody's making trouble, Yosy. I'm not going to say who.
Machriv Rabbi Yehuda v'Pamadisa, Ada v'Yonis and Avdi. Rabbi Yehuda announced to Pamadisa he wanted to keep his yukshin clean. So when there was a problem, he had to publicize it. Ada v'Yonis near Avodim. Yehuda bar Papa is a mamzera, and Bati bar Tovia, he was really an evet, and he was never freed, although he acts like a Jew because he was a Balgaiva. But Ramas Rucha, since he was such a Balgaiva, loishakol gita de cherusa. He refused to accept the shtar shircher from his other. He walks around like a big knacker. He's really only an evet. Makas Rabbi b'Mechuza, v'loi, danoi, kaloi, v'loi, zagoi. All these families, kulam lifsel. They're all possible. Don't marry into these families. Rabbi Yehuda, Gavoi. The people from the city of Gavoi are really Gavoinim. You're not allowed to marry them. Nunisa is a village that's called the Roy Nisinoi. It's a village of Nisinim. Again, you're not allowed to marry. Rabbi Yosef. Hi Beikuvi, the Pumbedisa, entire village of Beikuvi and Pumbedisa, Kulam the Avdi, they are all slaves. Rashi, it's a little weiter. Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Arba Meis Avodim. There's 400 Avodim. Barmila Arbas Alofim Avodim. 4,000 Avodim. Hayuloi Lepich Shkarban Imar, who has a kohen. And since they were avodim of a kohen, they ate truma. And since they ate truma, people mistakenly thought that they were actually kohanim, and therefore v'chulam niknu b'kahuna. They all ended up getting mixed into families of kohanim, and they were really avodim. So how could we sniff them out? How can we smoke them out? V'chal kohen sheyesh be'azus ponim, kohen zamachutzev einoi elamahem. You'll know that this is not a real kohen; he's an evet. Omer Abaye. Hulu Yasvan Yeshua de Benarda. They all sit in the row of Narda. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe that means they said Oivanun. They all said Oivanun in the Chushav. What does the article say? What does it mean Beshur de Benarda? They all sit in the Beshur de Narda. Unless it's just a city. In the row. They sit in the row Narda.
Shida means it means the
and he argues in Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar, and where Isa Kohen Bazus Metzach, and you see a Kohen who's a Bechutzev, Al Tarachro. Don't use that against him. So you see Kohanim have a certain nature to be somewhat confrontational, so don't assume that he's possible. If someone marries a woman who's not appropriate for him, when the Kadosh Baruch Hu will be mashpeh the Shechina made al kol shvatim, he'll be made in all the shvatim that are pure yichus, that you're pure from Klal Yisrael. Beina made a love, but you'll be left out. Shenemar shiftei ka edus li Yisrael. Amos I have edus li Yisrael. When does Hashem say edus that you're pure? Bisman shashvatim shiftei ka, if the shvatim are pure. Amar Abchama, Rabbi Chanina, kishakadosh Baruch Hu mashpeh Shechinasoi, ein mashpeh ela al mishpachos miyuchasoi shebi Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom is only sharish Shechina on the mishpachos shebi Yisrael. Shenemar ba'esei no Hashem. Eyel Elikim l'chol mishpachos Yisrael. It doesn't say l'chol Yisrael. L'chol Yisrael nemar and l'chol mishpachos, which means those that are miyuchasos. V'hema yu li la'am. I will show favor to them, and then they will be invited to come be my nation. This is the advantage that Yisrael have over Gerim, where Hashem makes the initiative to call us close. You'll be Yisrael, and then for the Gerim Ksiv, they have to make the initiative. So you see, they have to make the initiative. Gerim are so harmful to Klal Yisrael, like a nega, like a cancer. Shenemar, the nilva hager alayim, the ger will pile on the Klal Yisrael. V'nispechu al beis Yaakov. Ksiv hacha v'nispechu v'gar beis Yaakov. Ksiv hasam by negoyim v'losaeis v'lasapachas. The question is, should I learn Tosfos? We're running out of time, or should I just finish the 2 dots? So I'll try to finish the. We'll do Tosfos.
I'm sorry. Yes. What kind of avodim are we talking about here? Evet Kananim. Okay, so they weren't Jewish, or they were half Jewish.
Right. They were not Jewish.
Okay.
Okay, Amar Rab Chama Bar Chanina, K'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mitaher Shvatim, when Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to be eventually being Mitaher the Shvatim, meaning he's going to sort out those who are apostle from those who are kosher. Shifta Shalevi Mitaher Tchila. He starts with Shevet Levi first. Shenemar Vayoshev Mitar from Mitar Kesef, the Tiras Bnei Levi, the Zikik Oisam Kazov, Uchas Kesef. So you see Hashem starts with Bnei Levi. Vayul Hashem Agisha Mincha B'Tzaka. Amar B'Shu Ben Levi, he argues. And he says, not that Hashem separates the good from the bad and throws away those that are apostle. For carrot, he's Mitar the Psulim, and he makes them all kosher. Amar B'Shu Ben Levi, Kesef Mitar Mamzerim. Kesef is Mitar Mamzerim. You know why? Nobody wants to finish out with a mamzer. But if he's wealthy, oh, you didn't tell me he's wealthy. Then people will be shadach with him. And through that, they'll get mixed into Klal Yisrael. And therefore, Hashem will be Mitar them. Shenemar V'Yoshev Mitar Mitar Kesef, my Magisha Mincha B'Tzedakah, Amar B'Yitzchak, Tzedakah Asa Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Shem Nishbacha Shenitma Nitma. If a family got mixed in, he'll be Mitar them all. So Rashi says, Oshim Shenitma Machmas Ashram. People who, since they were wealthy, they were able to marry into Klal Yisrael because people wanted to marry them, and they compromised on the yichus. Hashem eventually will actually be Mitar them completely. Okay, we're going to have to, it's already 7:50, so I'm instead of learning places, I'm just going to speak it out very quick. The positive shot and why Kosher Gerim Lishok is a pachas is because they don't know halacha, they don't know their stuff. Because they don't know their stuff, they're going to do things wrong, and people are going to learn from them, and it's going to cause problems. That's a reason that could be offensive to Gerim. So Toysus brings down a pshat from Rav Mager. Rav Mager said, no, that's a pshat. Pshat is fakir. Since we're Gerim, we're more makbid. We're so makbid on halacha because we really take it seriously. We appreciate being Jewish that it's going to make you look bad. It's going to make the Jews look bad who don't take it so seriously. So that was the pshat of Rav Mager. And the Re says it's because they were nit to be Yisrael, and like we learned, a shchin is not shayra only on pure Klal Yisrael. Those are a different shot. So we'll stop here, Beth Hashem, and we will continue tomorrow.
Yosy, you need to use the joke now. I told you not to marry a shiksa.
Yeah, but it's
I told you not to marry a shiksa.
But the Gemara says that a mamzer is a aspunim and ushi and azes. If he has money, it means that he's not a mamzer.
Good.
The case it was
Have a good day.